Welcome to the 2020 New Testament Challenge. Today we begin the book of Colossians. There are 4 letters that Paul wrote while he was in prison. The first was Ephesians, then Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. This letter was written to the church in Colossae while he was in prison, and he is talking to them and he is so thankful for them. He says that he's thankful for them because of their faith in the Lord and their love for one another. Listen to what he says in verse 4. We have heard of your faith in Christ Jesus and the love you have for all the saints, the faith and love that spring from the hope that is stored up for you in heaven and that you have already heard about in the word of truth. The church there in Colossae, they were known for their faith and they were known for their love. It's true that if we love God, then we're going to love his children as well. If we don't love people, then we really don't know God. Listen to what 1 John says, 1 John 4, 7 and 8. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. So when we love one another, we are most like God. When we are least loving, we're the least like God. And if we want to love God, then we need to love people as well, those that he died for. As Paul's talking about how he is thanking the Lord for them, he tells them what he's praying for. He's praying that they would know his will, that they would please him, that they would be strengthened with power so that they would have great endurance, that they would have patience. They would be joyful in their thanksgiving because they've been rescued from darkness, they've been brought into the kingdom, they've been redeemed, and they have been forgiven. It's a great prayer that Paul prays for this church. If you've ever wondered, what can you pray for someone else? Just follow the example that Paul used here. Pray the kind of prayer that Paul prayed for those that you care about. Well, then he turns and he starts talking about Jesus. He says about Jesus in verse 15 that he is the image of the invisible God. Now, an image is an exact representation. It's a revelation. The Greek word here is E-I-K-O-N. We get our English word icon from it. If we want to know what God is like, it says that Jesus is the exact representation of him. He is the image of the invisible God. And that Jesus is the firstborn over all creation. Firstborn, that means he's of first importance. He's of first rank, not in time, but in status. He is first over all creation. And then verse 16, for by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or authorities or rulers, all things were created by him and for him. For him. That means because of him, everything has been created. Nothing was created that he did not create. In fact, as you read this, all things created by him and for him, it means that Jesus planned it, that he produced it, and it was for his pleasure. In verse 17, this is what it says. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. There's a pastor, Louis Giglio, that gave a talk once, and it was the most inspiring talk of all, because he talked about the fact that inside every cell that we have, there is a protein that holds everything together, and that's called laminin. And the electron microscope that showed what that protein looked like, it literally is in the form of a cross. That protein is a cross holding everything together inside every cell of our body. You know what that means? It means that God's fingerprint is all over us and it's in us as well. And as verse 17 says, he is before all things and in him all things hold together. Verse 18, and he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning and the firstborn from among the dead, so that in everything he might have the supremacy. What does supremacy mean? It means first place. He's not important. He is number one. He's not to be added to our life. He is to be our life. He is to be over all. He is to be in charge of everything. He is the origin of everything. And so he needs to have first place in our life. What place does Jesus have in your life? One person once said, if Jesus is not Lord of all, then he is not Lord at all. May Jesus be Lord of all in my life and in yours. Thank you for joining the 2020 New Testament Challenge.